welcome to Maple Leafs Man Advantage. If you've never been here before, I am Hawkeye, and I'm now at my 20th episode. It's kind of perfect time to get to the 20th episode, if you will. Just as in, this is my journey looking at why the Toronto Maple Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. And now I'm going to talk about the 1967-68 NHL season. So this is the following season after Toronto has won their final Stanley Cup. Um, and in addition, as I've talked to about in previous videos, there's been six new teams added to the league. So now we have 12 teams in the NHL rather than the original six. Now, what has happened is, as I said before, there's been two divisions created. So a division with the original six in a division with the six new teams. Uh, the divisions were called the East with the original six and the West with the six new teams. This is odd naming as two of those teams in the West are actually east of Toronto. Um, I must say, I've always found, um, definitely since about the mid 90s, the naming of divisions and conferences has been rather lazy in the NHL, especially when at one time they were naming them after people that had so much to do with the game and then went to east, west, north, south, all this directional nonsense. When I definitely think naming them after someone within hockey is a fantastic idea. I mean, imagine you having the Wayne Gretzky division or the Bobby Orr division, um, stuff like that. I think that would be a fantastic idea, but they started right out of the hop in 1967 with some, I don't know, I'm going to say it that, lazy decisions on what to name certain things. Anyways, now, certainly this made it hard for the teams in the original six because they had to battle each other like they had in previous seasons to make the playoffs, so the top four would make it. Um, Even though they may have a better record than everybody in the other division, as those teams are fighting for each other, the top four making the playoffs. Um, in the East Division, it was the Detroit Red Wings that were really starting to look like they were falling on hard times here. They're continuing to plummet in the standings. And they were the only team that had fewer points than the leader in the West. So the top five teams in the East were all had better records than anybody in the West. Now, in addition, excellent news for the players in the NHL. For the NHLPA or the Players Association is now up and running. So that's good for those players. We're also playing 74 games now instead of 70. So there's been four additional games added. So the offensive numbers should jump up a little bit here. Just looking at a couple of things. A, there's more games, and B, there's perhaps some lower quality teams that some of the upper quality teams, like for example, the Montreal Canadiens, would be playing and could really run up their goals and their scores. So I've already looked at teams in the West. So I'm going to jump into the East where the Toronto Maple Leafs were for this particular season and look at all of these teams. So by the end of this year, it was the Montreal Canadiens that were still clicking and they finished first. They had 94 points. Their captain, Jean Beliveau, led the squad. He had 31 goals. In net for Montreal, they still had Gump Worsley. He won 21 with a very nice 922 save percentage and a sparkling 1.98 goals against average and six shutouts. Rogie Vachon was still there as well. He also won 21 games. He had a good 913 save percentage and a 2.48 goals against average. and he had four shutouts for the Habs. So in total, the team had 10 shutouts. They were really clicking. The New York Rangers were continuing to make improvements, make even more progress from last season. Um, and for last season, they got in fourth and were back in the playoffs. Now they're in second, and they had 90 points. Jean Rattel led the squad with 32 goals. And in net, we had Eddie Jacquemin. He was the number one guy in their net. He won 36 games, had a nice 915 save percentage, 2.44 goals against average, and he had eight shutouts for the Rangers. In third place, here we go. It's another new team. The Boston Bruins made huge improvements over last season, and they were actually 40 points better this season than they were last year. This year, they got 84 points. Newly acquired Phil Esposito led the Bruins. He had 35 goals and led the league with 49 assists. Derek Sanderson, they just acquired him too. He won the Calder as the top rookie, and he had 24 goals. In net for Boston, they still had Jerry Cheevers. He won 21 games. And Eddie Johnston, still with the Bruins, he won 13 and is now getting a taste of what it's like in the playoffs for the Bruins, like playing some very important games now in Boston. So in fourth place, it was the Chicago Blackhawks. They put in a good season as well. They had 80 points. Bobby Hull led the Hawks in the league once again with goals. He had 44. Stan Mikita also had 40 goals, and he led the league with 87 points. Another terrific year from Stan Mikita. He also raked in, of course, the Art Ross, the Hart as the league MVP, and the Lady Byng. I believe this was the second year in a row he'd done that. And then in net for Chicago, they had Denny DeJordy with 21 wins, and Dave Dryden, he got nine. So just think, that is incredible. As you had to have 80 points to make the playoffs in the East. That's a lot of that's a lot of points because you're only playing 74 games. Um, that's a lot. But when you're playing the lower quality teams like you were in the West, some of those wins are going to get jacked a bit because all six of these teams have got the more experienced players. You can certainly say the better players. There were certainly some excellent players in the West. Usually they were young or they were old, reaching the final years in their days. But um, so in fifth place, it was the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They missed the playoffs. They had 76 points. They were close. Um, and with their coach, Punch Imlach, I did mention this earlier. I saw in an interview with Scotty Bowman. He mentioned that the first coach he ever saw that pulled the goalie to get the extra attacker on the ice was actually Punch Imlach. I think he saw him do that when he was coaching the Quebec Aces before he got to Toronto, I believe. So that's really interesting, and that tactic has progressed or changed a little bit as you see coaches pull their goalie when they're down by 3 goals sometimes and much earlier in the game. Yeah, it works sometimes, but that's just it. You got a better chance by getting that extra guy on the ice for sure. To perhaps control the puck in the opposition's end and try and get at least one, maybe two, maybe three goals to try and tie this game up. Um, but anyways, Imlach as well leads the Toronto Maple Leaf coaches all time with 370 wins. He's at the top of the list. He's also the only Leaf coach to have over 350 wins. It's Punch. So he's at the top of the Leafs list for coaches. So finally, in sixth place, it was I've already mentioned them, the Detroit Red Wings, who have fallen to the bottom of the division. It's a fastball for the Wings. Unfortunately, 39-year-old Gordie Howe, he's still clicking though. He still had 39 goals, and he's 39 years of age. Excellent job there by Gordy. In net was 30-year-old Roy Edwards. He had 14 wins for the Wings. They got him in a trade with Pittsburgh. They traded away Hank Basson, who played a bit of time in Pittsburgh this season. So that's how they got a hold of him. He's 30 years old and he's just sort of putting in time now in the NHL. And then Roger Crozier, he's still there with the Wings. He's kind of playing backup now. He grabbed 10 wins for the Wings this season after I think he didn't have such a hot season the previous season. So to take a deeper look now into the Leafs in this year, it was Mike Walton, sorry, who led the squad with 30 goals and 59 points and 11 power play goals. So he was coming into his own here now. One thing I found out as well that I thought was really cool and interesting is he was in fact married to Stafford Smythe's niece. Now, Stafford is the son of Conn Smythe, and Conn Smythe actually created the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before that, they were known as the St. Pats. He renamed them, gave them new uniforms, colors, everything. So it was Conn who created the Toronto Maple Leafs, and his son now was one of the owners, along with, and we're going to talk about these guys, one certainly in particular a little later, along with Harold Ballard and John W.H. Bassett. They got enough money to buy the team from Con in 1961 and had been running the team since. Smythe also then did bring Punch Imlach in. I believe I may have said that in a previous video. Might have been one of the first ones. He brought him in 1959 um, to be the assistant general manager, which changed to the general manager and the coach. So Punch punched his way in there, if you will, to change his position with the club. Now, with the Leafs, they also had two 20 goal scorers as well. Ronnie Ellis was 28, and Bob Pulford had 20. Pulford also led the team with three shorties. Ellis and Walton also had 5 game winners apiece. Both Pete Stemkowski and Tim Horton led the team with 82 penalty minutes. In net, we got Bruce Gamble. He had 21s this season. His numbers were improving because he had a great 934 save percentage, a 2.32 goals against average, and 5 shutouts. Johnny Bauer, still there. He's well into his 40s here. He had 13 wins. He had the same 934 save percentage, 226 goals against average, and 4 shutouts. So it looks like they have some really good goaltending in Toronto. No surprise, you still got Johnny there, and Gamble is getting more time in the net, and he proves he can be a guy that you can turn to in the NHL nets. Absolutely. Um, Now, as I said in previous videos, I would not have traded Eddie Shack, and you got JP Parise here as well. So, do I think those two guys could help the Leafs push into the playoffs? Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't be enough. I don't know. There's not enough there for me to upend the Chicago Blackhawks, who had the Hart Trophy winner. Hall led the league in goals. They have two 40 goal scorers. So unfortunately, I'd say Toronto's still going to miss out, but hang on. Things are going to get better here in the future. But at the season's end, this is when I would step in and I'd take a drink of coffee here. I would step in, take a deep breath. Um, I'm sure this would not be an easy job, but I would sit down with Punch Imlach and I would let him go. I would let him go at this time after you missing the playoffs. You won a cup. Um, And that's what I do. My apologies to anyone out there who may think, no, you don't let him go at this time, or maybe at any time. I'm not sure. But I would. Um, because, for example, one thing I heard from himself, Mike Walton thought that Punch stapled him to the bench. He was leading the team in goals. He stapled him to the bench and he was having a terrific season. And I think this is his career high in goals. Um, and it was really in the end, so Toronto could save a couple bucks so that he wouldn't get um, a bonus for goals scored. Um, I'm sorry, but how is that in the frame of mind and helping your team succeed on the ice, not up in the boardroom or where the wallet is, on the ice? That's all that I'm concerned about. I'm a fan. That's not helping your team succeed. I and certainly after hearing problems and uh, Punch having problems with Frank Mahovlich, Carl Brewer, who's still not on the team, who walked away from the Leafs. I'm waiting for that moment to let him go, and this is it. We have missed the playoffs. Thank you, Punch, for those four Stanley Cups. We're going in a new direction here. Totally. Now, who would step in as general manager? Well, personally, I would just put King Clancy there. Okay, King, it's your job. You're now the guy. Um, I believe, as I said, he was the assistant general manager, so I believe he can do the job. And for coach, does he want to do that as well? If he doesn't, that's okay. We can go look for a coach. There's going to be some good ones out there that we can look for. But if he's willing to do both, um, why not give it to him? Um, I saw in the same interview with Mike Walton that Punch was very oh my gosh, I can't say that word. Okay. Punch was very materialistic to it. Oh my gosh. Anyways, moving on. And he liked to yell and scream at his players and get them scared. Get them scared so they could play better on the ice. While Punch, or yeah, he did have success and he won four Stanley Cups. I do believe in the end he was doing more harm than good at this point. The good has already happened. Now comes the harm, in my opinion. Um, this is to me is the right time to let Punch go. And who knows, perhaps someone like King Clancy, who I believe had tons of respect from the players, and they really enjoyed his presence, and they really liked him behind the bench, as I think I saw in an interview with Jen Pappen. He really enjoyed playing for King, where Punch, it was not fun whatsoever. So that is what would happen in the end for my leave team if I was running the show way back in the day. But anyways, I'm going to show you now what my lineup would look like. It would look very similar, but it's a little bit different. So, and there's more trades to come and talk about here in this season. So maybe there's some more changes here. But anyways, we got Frank Mahovlich. He had 26 goals this season. Still got Dave Keon and Ronnie Ellis up on that top line. You got Pulford, Walton, Pappen. Still got Eddie Shack. Not sure if he'd get the full 23 goals in Toronto. He may not get quite as much playing time, and Boston was a very good offensive team. And you got Stemkowski and Armstrong still there on right wing wearing the C. And then I got JP Parise there on left wing and Brian Conacher at center. Although this year I think Conacher was at left, but I'm slapping him back in center. That's where he was last year, and hopefully he can do the job there. So on defense, you got Horton, Stanley, Hillman, Ronovo, and Wayne Rupp, new to the squad. So for extras, we got Milan Merceda. I'm going to be putting him as if there's a center to be needed. He's the guy I turn to. If you still need someone, I got Gary Unger. First season in the NHL here. And if you still need somebody, we got Walt McKechnie, the first year for him. He only played 4 games. But I got those three guys. We got Mike Byers on the wing. I'll just put him in anywhere. And if you need another winger, turn to Machetta or Unger. And then we got Daryl Sly also on defense. And in that, we got Bauer and Gamble playing the nets for you. So there you go. I'm kind of excited for the future there when I look and see, hey, we got Parise, we got Unger, we got McKechnie ready to come in and play right in this season here for you. So there are going to be some guys that were going to back up here on the team that there's no room for them. And one of them was a guy I would have drafted, Tim Ecclestone, uh, as well as Wayne Carlton, who did play for the Leafs this year. Um, I would, if I'm allowed to do this, I'm going to do it anyways. I would work out a deal with the St. Louis Blues. That's where Ecclestone played anyways this season. I would trade both of those guys over to St. Louis, and in return, if I can, get their first and second round draft picks for the next season. And I give them two good young players infused into their lineup. They might be playing at the bottom of their lineup, but they may help them for sure. And I'm hoping they would want to go for that deal. I think you can trade draft picks at this point. I think you always could trade draft picks. But anyways, that's what I would do. Free up some more room on the team as well, and get some draft picks in the next draft. So, anyways, there you have it. And that's the 1967-68 NHL season. And so there you have it. So if you like this video, don't be afraid to like or subscribe. I'm going to keep putting on Leaf videos on here. And if you want to comment on anything, don't be afraid. You can do that as well. Talk a little hockey. That'd be great. But anyways, can't wait to bring my next video for you. And until next time, have yourself an excellent day.